that the majority on this committee is eager to continue enabling this administration's repressive agenda. President Trump's attack on civil liberties and academic freedom are well documented. While Republicans continue their charade, new information about the Trump administration's policy of ideological deportations is coming to light.
You say those statements that you support your Jewish students. Shut up and get out of here.
Gentlemen will suspend. Gentlemen will suspend.
Get out of here, you loser. Come on. By the way, to be clear, I hold you all responsible for this. It is the attitude that you have allowed on your college campuses that make people think that this is okay. That is why this happens, because you have someone like Emmanuel Ness that says resistance by any means necessary, and I assume this person still works at your school. Is that?
You are not going to believe what just happened inside this congressional hearing. What began as a routine discussion about anti-Semitism on college campuses suddenly turned into total chaos, voices rising, tempers flaring, interruptions cutting through every sentence, members being ejected, and then one single line landed like a shockwave, instantly shifting the energy and flipping the entire room as everything spiraled into a moment no one watching will forget.
I'm going to be honest, I find the testimony today both disgusting, dishonest, and to be gaslighting, and I'm going to point it out here. We've heard that we unequivocally denounce anti-Semitism, unwavering support for our Jewish students, we have a zero-tolerance policy, and we will not put up with a call for violence. So let's explore that. I'd like to start with Dr. Rodriguez. Emmanuel Ness, the chair of your political science department, said he supports, quote, resistance by any means necessary, which includes violence. How can you say those statements that you support your Jewish students? Shut up and get out of here.
Gentlemen will suspend. Gentlemen will suspend.
Get out of here, you loser. Come on. By the way, to be clear, I hold you all responsible for this. It is the attitude that you have allowed on your college campuses that make people think that this is okay. That is why this happens, because you have someone like Emmanuel Ness that says resistance by any means necessary, and I assume this person still works at your school. Is that correct?
Microphone, please.
Any call for violence against Jewish members of our community is entirely unacceptable.
So why does this person still work there?
Any individual or faculty that has a complaint of breaking our rules, we will investigate them and take the appropriate disciplinary action if warranted.
Corinna Mullen at John Jay College said after October 7th, the right of Palestinian armed resistance is just, and just last month was filmed chanting up, up, up with freedom, down, down, down with Zionist scum. This is a professor that teaches your Jewish students. How can you say you have an unwavering zero tolerance policy when this person teaches at your school?
Again, I believe that that faculty member is no longer teaching with the university. Any call for violence, any call for supporting Hamas or terrorism is entirely unacceptable, and we made those statements several times.
At Berkeley, you're next. You created in the fall of 2024, you named Usama Makdizi the inaugural chair of a new endowed program in Palestinian Arab studies. On October 7th, Makdizi described the Hamas attack against Israel as, quote, resistance. Why would you give a job? See, I understand freedom of speech, but you get to decide who to hire. Why would you give a position to someone who said October 7th was justified? Why?
Usama Makdizi, Professor Makdizi, is a fine scholar. He was awarded that position from his colleagues based on academic standards.
Great. So on February 5th, 2024, this great academic, you're showing the problem, said, quote, I could have been one of those who broke through the siege on October 7th. This is what you think is good, and then we're surprised when people come in here and behave this way. I'm going to move on to Georgetown. You've got a campus in Qatar. I note when my colleague, Vice Chair Owen, said what would happen with a KKK student on campus, you said, yes, but. That's the problem with all of this. We believe that we should deal with racism, and we should, and I did a lot in the Florida legislature to do with that, but there should not be a but after it when it comes to anti-Semites. So at your school in Qatar, you had a October 24th, 2023, an event titled Decolonization is Not Just a Theory. It was an exhibition of armed resistance in Africa in solidarity with Palestine. What does decolonization is not just a theory mean to you, and what does it mean to Georgetown?
I don't have knowledge of that exhibition. This was a student-led event, Congressman.
All right, so I have 90 seconds left, and I'm going to end with this. I have a 17-year-old who will be applying to school next year. He's in Washington, interning right now. And how in good conscience could you tell my son, who is Jewish, who's the reason I wear this kippah, how could you tell my son in good conscience that he would be safe at any of your schools? I'll give each of you, 20 seconds to try to answer that question.
I would deeply hope he would feel safe, and there's a reason for this at Georgetown. If Jewish students don't feel safe, if they have fear, if it's not just hurtful to them, it destroys our mission of interfaith dialogue.
They don't feel safe right now. Your turn.
I have spoken to many students. We have recruited actively in the Jewish community at CUNY. I've actually begun a program of extending a program that we have of recruiting in the high schools to the yeshivas, which is College Now. And again, we have listened. I have met with the students, gone to Hillel, listened to their concerns, and I've told them that we need to do better. We have made the changes, and we're showing the results. And listening and being committed to their safety is something that I wake up every day to do.
Yeah, I don't even need an answer from Berkeley, given the answer to that question about that professor. I would tell you this, the Jewish students on your campus, they do not feel safe today, and you all should be ashamed about that. And with that, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman.
Thank you. This has been hard to sit through. And for all the Jews that are out there, I want to apologize to you because it's been tough for me listening to a lot of the repulsive and repugnant commentary that's been made both in those asking questions and those answering them. But God puts us where he wants us to be. My 17-year-old this morning told me to wear my kippah, which I don't do often, but that may change in honor of all of the students at these campuses that don't feel safe to wear it themselves. And for anyone who doubts my commitment to fighting on these issues, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, they can go talk to the 2 chairmen of the board and the 1 university president in Florida who no longer have their jobs because of me. So I encourage you to keep that in mind when you answer my questions. I think we heard a lot of lip service here. And Mr. Cole talked about the importance of free speech and equal access to education. So I'm going to start with those questions with Dr. Raymond. Dr. Raymond, and I encourage you, this may be happening right now. If a student is on your campus right now with a sign that says, "No blacks on campus," what will happen to that student?
Representative Fine, I first want to say that
I don't want to hear that. I want you to answer my question. A student on your campus right now, walking around campus saying, "No blacks on campus," what will happen to that student? They're allowed to walk around. Good job. Free speech. We love that. Is that what would happen on your campus?
no,
Okay, good. Would they be invited to go get an education somewhere else, which is what I hope the answer is?
it would be the same as someone who is inappropriately.
Would they be
repugnantly-
kicked out of campus if a student walked around your campus saying, "No blacks on campus"? Or would we sit around a drum circle and talk about how great it is? What would happen? Would they be kicked off? Or is that free speech at Haverford College? No blacks on campus.
Representative Fine, there is no room for discrimination or.
But there is room, because at your campus, in front of you, at a protest, students held up a sign saying, "No Zionists on campus." They said, and there was no consequence for that, and you were at that event, and it happened on September 30th, 2024. You were there. My second question I'm going to go to, do you believe the Jews are responsible for COVID? Is that some sort of conspiracy that we came up with to go after people? The Jewish students on your campus and professors were responsible for COVID and it was unleashed on people? Is that what you believe?
Of course it's.
Okay, then why did you say when a terrorist group wanted to have a presentation called COVID in Times of Genocide, how Israel uses COVID as a tool for settler colonialism in Palestine, your response to that name was that it was thoughtful and considerate. See, we can talk about what other people did. I'm interested in what you did, and in both of these instances, you're the one that did it. So do you think that title, COVID in Times of Genocide, how Israel uses COVID as a tool for settler colonialism in Palestine, was that thoughtful and considerate? Do you still believe that today?
I did not say that about that title, and I do not believe that today. And Zionists are welcome on our campus. And Zionists are Jews and not Jews. And to go back to your other point, we do not tolerate discrimination against.
Well, then let's get on to that. Since Zionists are welcome on your campus, we will now talk about a professor that is on your campus. And I may actually give some of my time to Mr. Cole on this one, because he talked about equal access to education. You have a professor named Guangtian Ha, and I apologize, who said in August of 2024, the only way to deal with Zionists is to stop talking to them and refuse to let them waste your time. Now, I don't know what Professor Ha teaches, but I would assume there are some students in his class that are actually Zionists. So would it reduce their access to education if their professor publicly says, I should stop talking to Zionists and I should not waste my time on them? How is that acceptable on your campus?
Discrimination of any form is not acceptable.
Okay, so does he still work on your campus? Does he still work there?
Yes, he does.
He does. And he also said something that said, the state of Israel must be dismantled and society denazified. Zionism is Nazism, is fascism. Zionisms are racists. And that's okay. And you can continue to work on your campus when you make those statements. That's okay. Keep the job.
Those statements are repugnant, and I do not defend those statements.
But you do, because here's the last one I'm going to do. You had a graduate student. Let's see if I can find it here. You had a graduate student who, before he was hired, made a statement. Can I find it here? The problem with your place is there's so many. October 7th, 2023, you had a visiting assistant professor write, October 7th was a beautiful sight to wake up to this morning, end quote. And after this person made this statement, your school offered them another position in June of 2024. Why would you hire someone who says that October 7th was a beautiful sight to wake up to? Why would you hire that person?
I am very sorry that I had someone on the faculty that would espouse those kinds of views.
Good. You can go back and you can fire him. I yield back the balance.
A Republican lawmaker begins pressing university presidents about professors who openly praised resistance by any means necessary and even called October 7th a beautiful sight. He asks a simple question: if someone on your campus held a sign that said "No blacks on campus," what would happen? And the first response is that they are allowed to walk around, and that is the moment everything shifts. He fires back, "Good job, free speech, we love that." Then
he draws the comparison because when signs saying
"No Zionists on campus" appeared, there were no consequences, no expulsions, no outrage, only process and policy talk, and you can feel the tension surge. Instead of clear answers, the room fills with phrases about investigations, condemning violence, and supporting all students. But he keeps returning to the same point: if policies only activate after national embarrassment, do they mean anything? Then the debate pivots as Democrats push back, arguing the
hearing is becoming an attack on civil liberties and
pro-Palestinian speech, warning about government overreach and insisting free speech must be protected even when uncomfortable. And that becomes the real collision: one side arguing universities are tolerating extremism and Jewish students feel unsafe, the other saying Republicans are policing speech to score political points. But the moment that lingers, the single sentence that silences the room, is the comparison, because it forces everyone watching to confront the same question: are rules applied equally or only when politically convenient? That is why this clip is one right now, not because of shouting, not because a protester is removed, but because one hypothetical exposes a line many believe has already been crossed, and what remains hanging in the air is trust.